What is up? What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to You're the Vet. Once again, if you're returning in, welcome to You're the Vet. If it's your first time, thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Robert Graves, and I am your host of You're the Vet. And what is You're the Vet? You're the Vet is a platform I created for veterans to come on and tell their stories about their transition, the good, the bad, the ugly. Vets come on here and give the lessons they've learned throughout the whole process, whether it's buying a house or if it's battling their PTSD, whether it's maybe getting into acting school, or as we're going to hear this gentleman today, Michael Carr, talk about being an entrepreneur, finding your niche in life. But before we get into Michael, I want to touch on some stuff real briefly. You're the Vet is now on iTunes, so now you can go to iTunes, subscribe, download the episodes you've missed, and then have them sent directly to your phone every other week when we upload new episodes. So there's also an app you can download from the App Store that goes right onto your homepage of your phone, so you don't have to ever miss a beat. And if we go live, which we're planning something in the near future to go live, you can get on there and talk to us live and ask questions and engage with us that way. So that's the newest news. We're still on Facebook at You're the Vet, Instagram at How to Grow a Beard Book, Twitter at How2 Grow a Beard. But the most important one is right here on the podcast itself. So whether you're listening to it on iTunes or through Spreaker, you're listening to it. And I thank you for that. All I ask you to do is share the word, spread the knowledge, let somebody know that this is a platform here for individuals that are getting out or who need the story, who just want to hear a good podcast with some familiar sounds and some familiar stories. That's what we're here for. With that being said, head on over to our platforms, subscribe, like, join, share the word. Let somebody else know that this is a platform out there for them while they're going through their process of transition and trying to find their own success in life. So speaking about success in life, I'm going to introduce Michael Carr. Michael Carr is an entrepreneur, if you've ever said the word entrepreneur and wondered what it was. Michael has legitimately done it all, from the petroleum field to the wine field. And then there's some little bits that I won't put in the intro in case mama's listening. So, but Michael's been around, and he's got a story all the way from the beginning of hip hop to getting his foot in the door at the beginning of all the tech boom into what he's doing now as the Dreadlock Connoisseur. And we'll get into that. And it starts, you want to talk a story? This guy's got a story. And that's what I've promised to bring to you. Stories that pull you in and keep you engaged. And again, from the beginning of hip hop in the Bronx, Michael talks about how his parents immigrated here and how he grew up being the middle child and having to fight for attention and fight for a purpose, and moving into the military and doing similar, fighting for a purpose, and then having to go through something so tragic as, well, let him get into that. But long story short, the theme I picked up on this conversation is purpose, looking for a purpose and always moving towards that purpose. And then we go on to other conversations about how to make a marriage last as long as he has, which is going on 30 plus years. We talk about the importance of building the brand. We talk about just being capable of doing anything as long as you realize that money does not create the happiness. And that goes back into my story that I've shared with you so many times. But there's just so much wisdom in this story coming from a veteran who's lived through that whole 90s era that we kind of skip over. And he talks about the processes that he had to put himself through to move through his own PTSD, which is something that if you're going through today, you can take a little tidbit from here and there from his story. So, and if you want to get a hold of Michael at any time, I'm going to leave all his contact information, all his Twitter and Facebook handles, all his websites on the show notes. So tap into him, reach out to him. And I don't want to run my mouth like I usually do on these intros. I just want to get right into it. I do want to apologize about the sound quality. It's a little echoey on the other side, but you know what? If you can fight through it, you're going to enjoy the story behind the man with the self-proclaimed deep romantic voice. So let me introduce Michael Carr. So Mike, I appreciate you taking the time to join me on this podcast, this production of You're the Vet. I'm so excited because you're a man of wisdom, because you have a lot of life behind you, stemming back to beatboxing on the block. So Mike, I just I just want to welcome you. Thank you for coming here, and it's your show. Who's pre-military Mike?
Pre-military Mike grew up in the Bronx, New York. Michael Anthony Carr. My mother wanted to call me Michelangelo from The Artist because she did art. So all three brothers had to do art. So then my brother was Mark Andrew. So she seemed to have this Greek mindset. And then she went with Donald. So I don't know where that came from. But pre-military Mike was the guy that listened to music, movies, and, spent a lot of time at Baptist church. So the creativity that my mother installed in all of us got me into the hip hop industry of listening to music, listening to different kinds of records, and saying, this is another art form. I'm going to jump in it while it's growing. So to me, it was, my mother said, you can do anything other than doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. So I wanted to be sure that I was able to do all of those things. The best thing in my life was I was a big reader, and they tried to skip grades. But my mother said, no, keep him there. I know he's smart, but he's not that smart. So she didn't want me to skip grades. I actually went to a bilingual public school. It was PS 125 in the Bronx. It was the best experience in my life because it got you involved with other cultures and said you have to recognize that, and you have to be able to say, how do you deal with someone that's outside of yours? My mother embraced that. My sister, which was the fourth, because I have three brothers, Donald, Mark, myself, and Karen. And so my stepfather was Puerto Rican. So, being in a bilingual school and him being Puerto Rican, I had to learn Spanish because when he started yelling at us, I was like, I have no idea what this guy is saying. So I got to at least be able to say, cállate, just be quiet. I don't want to hear. So I worked along with that. But my life was basically music, love, family, art, and movies, because my mother would sit down and we just looked at the old Bogart movies. We sat and looked at all types of comedies. I got that sense of humor from my mom.
So you kind of grew up an old soul, dealing with your parents kind of introducing you to an older culture, and then you had these brothers and sisters. Where do you fall in line?
I'm that middle guy.
Okay.
So the middle kid who, not quite the oldest to tell everybody what to do, but not quite the baby that gets away with everything.
Yeah.
But I was the smart one. So when you're smart, you keep as close to your parents as possible, and then that's how you get spoiled. So when my mom wanted to look at TV, there I was. When my stepdad needed to go out and get some beer, I ran for him because I wanted that money and said, hey, I'm the good one.
Yeah.
So I did what I could just to, hey, look, I want the attention because I'm just that middle guy. I didn't want that to stay for long.
So you said that you grew up at the time where hip hop was just becoming popular. That is a very prominent staple in a lot of people's memories. What was before the growing trend of hip hop? What was around that you were doing? I mean, you were reading, and what type of music were you into at that point? What type of art?
So it was, what made that interesting was my mother was solely into a lot of like Caribbean and salsa music. She was also into a lot of R&B, and kind of old school stuff. And, we would just listen to it. She gave us my uncle gave us a little portable record player, that close and play thing that you could be able to just open up the box, put a record in there, and speakers on the outside.
Yeah.
So we would just snatch those and go from there. But the activity, and if I can paint this for you, was when we went outside and played, we had people on the steps singing. We had the Puerto Ricans and the Cubans and the Panamanians. They come out with their congas and the maracas, and they would play music on the step. And we would just sit there and say, oh, that's the rhythm, that's the rhythm. But it was a natural thing to have that. So not only were we listening to live music, and then we would transition on the weekend, and we were in, our church that we would sing, the organist, and then we brought drums into there, we brought bongos into there. So a lot of those things we were just involved in. We had music without even transitioning to say, how do you put it on turntables and start spinning? So that was all in our mind.
Yeah.
It was fresh when you walked out the door. It was, when we was in a private setting in our own home, you had it as well.
Yeah.
And then your pastime with your family in the church, you had that as well.
Nice. And so the life of growing up on the streets, and not really like as a hoodlum, but growing up in a culture where you're outside playing in the streets and listening to this new, fresh culture kind of emerge. You were a smart kid. That means that you had the grades and you were doing the schoolwork to make the family happy. What was the moment when you're like, I'm ready to leave home and go explore the world?
So, that's funny you should say that. That's a really good way of kind of introducing that. I was only ready to leave the world when I met my wife in school. Everything else was all about going to college and becoming a professor or a teacher or even a pastor, because, I had the one thing they said, I had the voice, I was articulate, and you need to help people with that voice of yours. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. But meeting my wife, I felt head over heels with her in high school. So I was in a program called Co-op, and Co-op said you worked 1 week and then you went to school the other week. So the school week was nothing for me because I can do the schoolwork in like maybe a day. Mm-hmm. So I tried to pick up hours just working. And then when I met my wife, it was work, wife, then school. And I still never had a problem, but the potential that I could have had really just went elsewhere because everything was too simplistic for me to be able to say, how do I achieve more, when I was running after this girl, so. Yeah. But when I met her, that was the biggest change in my life to say, you know what, I want to be with this woman here. Wow, she is opening my eyes to be something that I never thought I could be.
How long's it been?
With my wife?
Yes.
So we met each other in high school, 79, and I married her in 81, and she's still with me today. So that's going on about, you can count that off from 81 to we're in 2017.
I'm 30. So, I was born in 82, so that's 34. So you've been 35 years.
Yeah, we go to 30. Yeah, going on 30.
That's incredible. Yeah. You know what? Before we even move on with the rest of it, what's the secret?
So, and I always tell everybody, because they keep telling me I need to write a book. The thing is, the person you married should be your friend first and your lover second. Mm-hmm. Because if she's not your friend, and her grandmother told us this, she said when you get old and your body don't look the same way, if you can talk to them, you'll last forever. Mm-hmm. But if you can't talk and have these similarities and things, then it's never going to work.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing, and I tell people now to be more contemporary. There was an episode of Dexter, and if anyone knows who Dexter is, he was the serial killer. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love that show. But he was ready to kill his husband and wife, and they were kidnapping people, putting them on trailers, selling them, and he was like, "How do y'all stay together? You're two killers." And they said common interests and common goals. That kept us together. And me and my wife tell everybody the same thing. We want the same thing. We can yell, scream, say, I'm going to leave you. But we know we have the common goals and we have common interests. She loves tech. She loves movies. She loves music. We love the same thing.
Yeah. That's
common
incredible.
Interests, common goals.
It's incredible. I used to listen to this guy, Mikey. He had the Mikey show when I was stationed in Pendleton. And he would ask his parents, how'd you do it? How are you still together? Because I've seen, really bad. I've seen really good. And they just say, you just do it. You just stick together. You just don't give up. And so
it's a job.
Yeah,
it's a job.
It's a job. It's a job. And I'm on my second marriage, and I constantly am reflecting on what I did wrong in the first one to ruin that one, or where things could have went better. And so you said it earlier that your wife is kind of your power source, your backbone, and gives you the drive and energy to do things. And I see that now. And I look back. It's funny because you said you should be friends first, and I look back, and my wife and I knew each other in high school, but we didn't date till 10 years later. So, I can see that, and I can see how a good woman can keep you moving, and your mind just constantly looking for better ways and better things, and more structure, and just keep you growing, keep you honest, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people don't look at it in that way.
Yeah.
People look at it as, I'm just so in love. Yeah, that's the infatuation period.
Yeah.
But when you stop and say, hey, look, you sit right there and I sit right there. Let's be quiet for a while. Let's just keep it silent. And if you're ready to walk away, then we can't be together.
Yeah.
If you are comfortable with the silence, you know you're comfortable with that person.
Yeah.
And that was just a weird thing that we realized together, that we can sit there and be comfortable in the silence. But if one walks away, where you going? We're not even talking.
Yeah.
But we know just the presence of each other is giving us comfort.
Yeah. So what was the conversation like when you told her you wanted to join the military?
So she got pregnant.
Okay, gotcha.
And my wife was part-time model. So she's from the Bahamas. She's about 6 feet tall, and I'm about 5'8.5". Mm-hmm. So she said she'll never, date a guy that's shorter than her, and he has to do a lot more than just be smooth. I'm not taking that. So I tell our kids that, and they laugh each time. And then my daughter's like, I don't want to hear it no more.
Of course.
But I told her, because she was dating another guy in the Bahamas, and I told her, okay, when you get back from your trip in the Bahamas, I'm going to make you forget this guy. She's like, yeah, okay, I'll take that bet. So I started dating her, and she came back, and we just hung out. Never said she's my girl or whatever. And I said, well, what about what's his name? And she said, who? And I said, I got you. And got us since then. So when she got pregnant, she was like, look, we just need to get out of here. Yeah. I'm with you for the trip, wherever we going. I said, but I want to go overseas. She was like, slow down. We're just for the trip, but slow down. So I was like, okay. So she was okay. She was fine.
So you read a lot, and that kind of introduced you to the thought about traveling, right? And so that's why you joined the military, to travel, to see the world.
Yeah.
What kind of books were you reading to get in that mindset at such a young age?
So a lot of fantasy books, a lot of things with like Hannibal. We read some fables. I was reading some things in Germany. It was just the picturesque things to say, this is beyond the broken buildings of the Bronx. And this is beyond the tall, cold buildings of Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And when we had relatives in Virginia, the cows and the chickens in the yard, this was something totally different from that. And when I read, and I was, just trying to get the visuals of that, I was like, I want to touch that. I don't care what they said. If I can touch it, then I know it's real. And when I started introducing that with my wife, I said, you need to share this with me because this makes me whole. When we see beyond this Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Bronx, when we see beyond that, it makes me whole. And she joined me with that.
Yeah. Did you have a bucket list of places to see?
So people always say, so what's your bucket list? I don't have a bucket list. But it's the places I want to go. So I don't have any dream places, and I don't have a bucket list. It's the places I want to go. So the only places I really feel I need to go is I want to go to China because I want to walk the wall. We'll be going to Australia probably in another month. I gotta go to Italy because we went to Spain, and I'm really thinking I want to go to Iceland to see the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
Because I think I'll pass out if I see it.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the most extraordinary natural occurrences in the world, and I think I would just pass out or fall down in tears because it's so amazing.
Yeah.
It's just the most amazing thing I want to see, put it that way.
I spent a lot of time in Canada on my first job outside the military, and there were two things I wanted to see, and one of them were moose. I wanted to see a moose in its natural habitat, and the second was Northern Lights. So it's a running joke between some of the Canadian friends I met out there, and I don't know if it's a joke for me so much because I'm still kind of sad I didn't see any, but I did not see any Northern Lights out there. Yeah, I would. Right. It would blow my mind. I really.
It would blow it.
Yeah, I want to see that so bad. So I'm right there with you.
So when I went to Alaska, because being in the military, we went to Alaska. It wasn't the season for it.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get stationed there. Even just for that, my wife was like, "Are you kidding me? You want to go to just for that?" I was like, "But this is a once in a lifetime." She was like, "No, we're not going. We're not going."
So what did you do while you were in the military?
So I was in 05 Bravo, which was a radio operator. Me being that guy with this voice, I thought I was going to be on radio. I didn't realize it was going to be a radio on my freaking back, and I'm just saying, here, 05 Bravo, over and passing it on to the captain, and then I'm just carrying around the radio. And I was like, are you kidding me? You really suckered me into this. So I had that for about 2.5 years, and then we went into satellite communication. But then I was like, look, I just got to get out of this. This isn't me. So then I went into petroleum supply specialist, which brought me into the logistics field that I'm in now. And it was really just petroleum. So I was doing the supply and for missiles and then for aircraft. And then we was working hand in hand with the Air Force and our helicopters. So we was doing it for air traffic and everything from there. Now that was the more exciting because I got to fly the different type of the Apaches, the Chinooks, the Sikorsky's, and that was just exciting. Those were great times just to be flying and going into those different areas. Dangerous as hell, but really exciting.
Yeah. How long did you stay in?
About 12.5 years.
12.5 years. So did it treat you well, or was it something that you're ready to get out of? What was that process?
So the military, I'm a rebel. I'm that guy who thinks he knows it all. Because the more I read, the more I know. Uh-huh. The more I know, the more I can tell you. The more I can tell you, the more you don't want to hear. So that was my career in the military. Because this guy, I've learned to just start reciting the UCMJ. Uh-huh. So I knew there's a lot of things that I can do to a captain that he couldn't do anything about. Uh-huh. He can restrict me, he can do this, but he couldn't write me up. The one thing that I missed out that I couldn't do or I didn't think about, I got in trouble for those, but I just kept reading. I dug into the policies and everything. I was like, this is the guy that you can't tell me much. So I was enjoying that part, but I was frustrated because, just like in civilian life, you're going to find people who shouldn't be in the position that they're in, but they happen to be that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that in the military, that on the outside it was the same way. My expectation when I was getting out was the smartest people are the managers and the VPs and these people who's actually running the ship. But boy, was I wrong. But my life was really well. It was, we was traveling. While we was in, we were going to Paris, we were going to Austria, we were going to so many different places. I mean, family-wise. But the military was taking me to Egypt. It was taking me to Okinawa. It was just taking me everywhere. And I love that. But when conflict started, that's when I realized that my mortality hit it. I was like, I probably wouldn't be there for my children.
Yeah.
I probably won't survive that.
Okay.
And when you have people who aren't as competent, you see that you're putting your life in the hands of people who weren't taking care of you, and then in turn, you have to take care of others. Mm-hmm. So then there was a fear and an anger that started to occur, and that was in my later years, and that was about 9 years in. That's when my mentality changed. It wasn't even trying to be right; it was trying to be safe, and it was really hard to handle then. And what turned it was being in Somalia.
Okay, so that was Desert Storm, right?
Well, after Desert Storm,
well, right after.
Then we ran into the Somalia.
Yeah, so the mindset of mortality started in the early 90s when the Gulf War started.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, and you've got kids, you've got an established family, you're a little more mature at that point, and so now you're internalizing your purpose in life at that point, right?
Absolutely. Great way of saying it.
If you were to put in words now, looking back, what would you say that purpose was? So
my purpose was to be the example for my children, to be an example, because most of my family had steady jobs, teachers, basic workers, but they saw better. Like most families, they expect better from the next generation going from there.
Yeah.
And I thought that if I would have stayed in the military and not moving the way I thought I could move, I wouldn't be who I thought I could be.
Which was what were you visualizing at that point?
So what I was visualizing is, because of the logistics, it was to be able to run my own business.
Okay.
I think that was the one thing my wife gave me a lot of being an entrepreneur. She always was like, I can't work for these people because we could be doing this. Uh-huh. And then since I was on the intellectual side, I said, so what do you mean by that? She said, I would like to do this. I said, so this is how we can do it. And then we started building from there. So she always gave me an entrepreneurial mindset to say, run your own business, run your own job, do that. So that's where I wanted a family thing to say, if I bring my children up, we can have a legacy and say, hand this off.
Yeah.
Now, whatever you do with it, hopefully I've taught you well to say, this is yours and you can take it to the next level.
Did you get any pushback, any flack from your command when you made the decision to separate?
No, it was sadly, and this is kind of heartbreaking too, is when I was getting out, most of the command was going to Bosnia.
Okay.
So after Somalia and, the emotional experience there, we turned around and the unit was going to Bosnia. And I was like, I'm really fearful of going there. I was truly fearful of going there. Mm-hmm. And what happened in my whole unit, one of the groups called squadrons was shot down and they died. And it was almost, I didn't see it as a vision, but I just felt that something bad that was going on. Out of all the units that were there, I really felt something bad was going to happen to us. And when I found out it happened, it just pretty crushed me on that.
Yeah.
And it was just, and when you bond, we all have that. People don't understand, even in the military, whatever color you are, when you bond with people, you bond for a long time. And even when you think that these people really don't care about you, I have friends now that still reach out and say, you know what, I can never forget you taking care of me. And I was like, I don't remember taking care of you, but they did it. And I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah. So how did you prepare? When you made the decision, how did you prepare? Because when we talked before, prior to setting up this interview, you said, I flipped a 4-sided coin, and I'd never heard that term before. And so what's the process? What is a 4-sided coin? And then, what's the process of flipping it? And I know, I'm
Right.
sorry to interrupt. I know it's a figure of
No,
speech. I know it's
right,
not
right.
actually a thing. So, but
A true process right now.
like,
Yes. So
where can I get one of these four-sided coins?
so the four-sided coin that I used was basically when you want to make a choice, you can't have a single choice. And if you can actually have multiple choices, flip that coin, and whichever one falls, know where your front, your side, and your back is.
Okay.
And figure out which one is your best option.
Okay.
As some people have people are either going to go here, I'm going to go here. My wife and I did the research and said, don't look at it as this or this. Let's look at it as which is the best options that we have.
Okay.
And then that was something that my wife and I, and that I think we was working with ACS, and they was giving us a lot of good info for what was going on in the States when we were still in Germany. Because we went directly from Germany to where we lived.
Okay.
We didn't stay at nobody's house. We didn't stay at a hotel. We went from there to the house that we bought.
Well, how did you prepare?
So what we did initially was, as we flipped the coin, we was traveling. So we flew in on a military flight in because we wasn't going to pay all that money, keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
So we took some leave. We planned it all out, and we were supposed to go to Connecticut. We were supposed to go to Maryland. We supposedly went to Virginia, Charlotte, and Atlanta. So all of those with those options that were there, but it's supposed to land in Charlotte first, but it happened to land in Atlanta. And Atlanta, with our research prior to that, was the Olympics was going to be there,
Mm-hmm.
more jobs was going to pour in.
Yeah.
So that was a good option. No family, but being entrepreneurs, it was like we would be able to put our feet somewhere that's fresh and most likely we'll be able to get funded. So the military actually gave us a lot of resources to say, here's a couple books, here's where you should be looking up. Computers was just giving you that type of search engines during that time,
Okay.
but not really in detail. They had newspapers, and we just dug in. And as soon as we put our feet down, we already made the calls, and we met up, and we didn't go nowhere else.
Okay.
We were able to purchase that house.
So it was being resourceful that got you to that point, right? And I'm sure that you looked around and some of your peers were not as resourceful, and so it was a lot harder for them, right? So,
right.
Do you think that you're a person who looks for opportunities or creates them, or is it a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of both.
Okay.
For me to say, I'll always look for the opportunity. Sometimes it walks right up to you, and the thing is, if you're self-aware, you'll see it. I've lost a lot of opportunities because I didn't think it was for me.
Yeah.
Some things that you see is for you, but it's just giving you the opportunity to say, at least try it. But I think it's a combination, too, and especially now that I'm older, I don't let any opportunity go. If not, I'll format it, and I'll look for the people that I can help and say, hey, look, here's an opportunity. Mm-hmm. I can't take it. Yeah. Here's a job that this guy said, and I know you can do it. Now, it's up to you to go after it, but I don't need that. That's not the right opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Or when I said, look, I want to start this job, I want to create this, my wife and I come together, we strategize with that, and then we'll go for it. Yeah. And you know what? A year or two, it may not be that good. We'll drop it and we'll move on.
Yeah.
So opportunities are made and presented.
I'm very similar, and I've really adopted the mindset of you got to look in the doors, right? Doors open all the time, and you got to look in them and peek in them and see if it's something that fits your nature, your character, and maybe an opportunity for you to move forward into something bigger and better. So, but you'll never know unless you peek through that door, right? And so that's something that Absolutely. I've really been preaching, so to say, for, I don't know, the last 8 months. It's been really on the forefront of my mind. But you said that, opportunities will come and hit you in the face, but if you're not self-aware, then you'll never know. What does that mean to be self-aware?
So being self-aware is, what is your capability? So if you're an introvert and something comes to you to say, I need for you to stand in front of these people, and this will be the great opportunity for you to get promoted. Well, that's not your character. You're going to be fearful of that. So that opportunity isn't for you.
Yeah.
A person like me would be like, look, if you get in front of these people and I'll put this mic in front of you, what do you think you could do? Like, thank you very much. I've been waiting on this one. So I'm right there. But that's the thing that said, just because it's not monetary at this point, you have to build, like what I told my wife is, if you don't build a brand, people won't know who you are and won't request it because they don't request you. They request your brand. Okay. You are creating a brand in order to say, this woman does this woman can code, this person does this.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? I don't have to ask her for this one thing. I can ask her for that. That's why I'm impressed with you, Robert, because you're doing multiple things. And as you do multiple things, you can branch out whenever you need to on the things that you're qualified for or that you're capable of doing. And it can bring the business into where you're at in order to enhance the others. And I always try to tell people, it doesn't need to be immediate gratification. Get it to support your brand and then continue to build from there.
Yeah. What would you say your brand is?
You know what? As I preach to you, I don't really know. I don't really. So I'm really, my brand is leadership. Is everything I've done.
There you go.
Is to try to keep people, to find those little things within them that they don't see. I do it at my job. I do it with the young adults that I meet. I do it with people who I just correspond with. I can say, wow, this is great. Do you realize that you're great at this and you're not even scratching the surface?
Yeah.
Are you afraid or are you not aware that you're good at that? So with me, I've always loved to look to enhance other people's skill set and become that leader and say, let's bring this together so we all come right. I don't have to get anything from it, but that's my self-satisfaction.
Yeah.
I believe that if you can do that for others, things will come from you as well. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But a clear, thought out brand, I don't think so.
Well, so you got to Atlanta and you guys chose, that was where you ended up, and you worked in the petroleum field for the next 10 years, right?
Yes. No, not petroleum, to logistics. So it
Okay.
was distribution, things from that. So touching down, it was, I need to pay the bill.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first thing. But with my wife, I usually channel everything through her. So she don't have to actually be worried about, I got to get a job as well. So I channeled everything with building an entrepreneurial job for, we call it Mac and Touch back then, with computers and building computers, and consulting and things like that. So I pushed everything from there while I worked a full time and then a second job until, the competition got really, really bad because the financial side is the one thing that I really didn't get into. Because, sometimes when you think you're a smart aleck, you know it all. And so you actually say, damn, I should have got finance for this. And then things start falling backward. But I did that, and with a secondary job working at the airport and working at one of the Marshall's retail stores. I got that done just to support her until we figured that we couldn't compete against the other computers companies that was in the area.
Because the mom and pop spot computer store compared to like it wasn't the Apple store back then. It'd just be Circuit City or something, right?
Yeah. So the people who we were truly competing with was the mom and pop.
Okay.
But us being unknowledgeable,
Gotcha.
It was, they were well established.
Okay.
So we were trying to build on that. We got a lot of good customers, but the consistency and the ability to build on demand, you have to have capital ahead of time in order to do that. And we really didn't prepare for that. We just thought we could just build on demand, we'll make a little money, and then we'll continue to have a business for the rest of our life. But that was naive, and that was Circuit Cities and the Best Buys and all of them really wasn't in the South Atlanta area. So everyone went to your local mom and pops, and that's where we were.
Okay. So here's a list.
Mm-hmm.
IT consulting and repair, vending machines, retail store, online retail store, photography, online black bookstore, mobile apps and websites. And then you said, and there's some others I won't list because I don't consider successful because it didn't get off the ground enough. But that is what this is for, right? So this conversation is, you mentioned earlier that you want your offspring, your generations behind you, your kids and their kids and their kids, to learn from the mistakes that you had to make, that you want to set this boundary. And there's a psychological model called Maslow's pyramid of hierarchical needs, right? And that says, and I'm sure you're aware, it's the pyramid that has the base that says you need your basic needs, your sleep, eat, sex, and air. And then what's funny above that is like food and shelter. Like, I need air and sex before I need shelter. But if you like think about it in a natural setting for breeding, right? So going back to the very basic needs. But the thing is that as we progress, and I love having this conversation, especially with generations above me. In fact, to go back to yesterday, I was talking to a gentleman, and I was telling him this story about the moment I knew I wasn't going to spank my kid, because I grew up in the South. So I had this mindset that, hey, I'm so off tangent right now, but who cares?
It's fine.
I had this talk. My son was 1. He's 2 right now, but he was 1, and he would come into the kitchen and he would push the 5-gallon water, and it would just pour all over the floor. And so after so many times of telling him no, I started hitting his hand, and it seemed that he learned from that for a little bit. But and that was my mindset from the way I was raised, where we go get switches off the tree and with your dad on the porch, and so I knew I was going to spank my kid because I'm a good guy, and look how I turned out. But in retrospect, looking back, J-Kid had his hand slapped, and then, a month later, after having his hand slapped a few times, he went to his mom's jewelry drawer and started playing with that. I said, no, Jake, and he started slapping his own hand.
Wow.
And then I told you earlier, I do a lot of self-reflection. Well, here's a 1-year-old child just like, trying to figure out what the world is, just living in this constant life of curiosity. He has no idea what a jewelry drawer is, right? And I'm slapping his hand when I should be encouraging his mental growth. So, but that's all hindsight. That's all because I am able to look in the past and understand, the differences between what used to be the norm and correct and what should be, right? So, so that's why I really preach Maslow. I really love that theory, the model of building up off of the generations below us. We build up. We want our kids to be better than us. So how do we do that? We set this solid base of the foundation that we learn, right? That's why we put ourselves through college when our parents couldn't, XYZ. So, so that's why You're the Vet is a concept, so we can give back. So back to the question I had initially. I mean, you have this continuous journey of trying to find the thing, and you said that you didn't mention some because they weren't successful or didn't get off the ground enough, but realistically, you learned something from those, and that's what I want to pull. What did you learn from those things that you don't feel succeeded, and why?
So, great question, and put that all together. The ones that I did for a little while longer and the one that I didn't do. The really mindset was just 2 things, which was the wrong thing. 2 things. Make money and, run your own stuff. That's really not a true vision. True vision is, what do you want to do? Make it something that you want to do. And then you can make that process make you money. But I was jumping into any and everything because I can make money off of that. I can make money off of that. Oh, this is the next thing I should do. Well, no one can tell me what to do about this. And it was only I'm chasing money or I don't want nobody to tell me what to do. So if I do all of these things, I'm fine. Just because I'm selling a product doesn't mean I can believe in it. So that's why I was never a good salesperson until I was starting to sell something that I believed in. So when I was at one of my other jobs in my distribution center, the salespeople brought me along because they couldn't sell what I was capable of doing. So when I presented it, they were like, this guy knows everything because I was passionate about something that I truly believed in. So a lot of these businesses was to either make money or to be able to just have someone not tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So those throwaways that was quick money, and I'm not doing that. Oh, that was quick money, and, I don't want to do that no more. I really don't want to keep buying chips and putting them in the vending machine. Man, that don't make any sense. I got in on the floor level when everyone had phone cards. So we were selling phone cards, and we were supposed to have been able to say, we can put your company on these phone cards. But then people didn't want to put the money down. And I was like, I ain't got time for that. So I threw that one away. And then they had the 1-900 numbers. We had people lined up. And I was like, I don't want to do this. But I made some money off of it, but not enough that I can be comfortable. So as I was chasing money, I realized that really wasn't something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was capable of doing anything.
Yeah.
It was like, damn, you do anything. Yeah, I can. But as I got older, I was like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to do the things that I can feel good about.
Yeah.
And if I happen to make the money there, I may not become a millionaire doing it, but at least I can be content with that.
Yeah.
So that's where my struggle, that's where I really learned to say, what are you truly doing? Because you're going to continue to stop and go because you're not doing really something that you really want to do.
Yeah. And at what point, how long did it take to have that epiphany?
Well, it kind of stopped probably around 10 years ago, to be honest. I'll be 54. I'll be 63. I'll be 54. Yeah, about 10 years ago. Close to 15 years ago. And I've been chasing all types of different businesses prior to that. Made a lot of money, spent a lot of money, threw a lot away. And then about 10, 15 years ago, I started saying it's time to invest. It's time to work the stock market like you should. It's time to structure finances and get people together to say, this is how you need to look at it, especially Black folks. We don't invest because we don't have money. No, you have money. You just don't want to invest. You don't see what your future is. And see, that's why I'm saying back to the leadership thing is you have to be able to convert the language that people don't want to hear into something that they want to hear. So if you know something so confident and positive about it, you have to convert that to the ears that a person goes, oh, I didn't know that. Now, if I start telling them about the stock market and the NASDAQ and they're like, look, get out of my face. And if I say, look, man, you can get $75 to your dollar and they're giving it to you free. You know what you can do, and you can buy your house. You can take that out of your 401k, you pay it back, you pay your own interest back. But guess what? That's your house right there. I had about 7 or 8 people from the previous job from this one that was able to do that and buy themselves a house. Because I was able to convert the language into something that they said, well, I can understand that. And he's not preaching to me. He's giving me exact examples for that. So, it was hard because, when you're just chasing money sometimes and the money's coming in and it's going out, you don't really look at it until you realize you're on that wheel. You're that hamster now. You get on and you get off. You get on and you get off.
Yeah.
But you're still on that wheel.
So what would you say is your purpose now?
Motivational leadership.
Okay.
To me, motivational leadership. And I'm doing it in different ways. So, my podcast that I'm doing, I have so many friends that they drink wine.
Urban Wine Life, right?
Yep, Urban Wine Life. And I have so many people who say, I just don't get it. That's why I don't do it. I said, okay, let me make it simple for you. I'll be this guy. And I usually show up with one of my Marvel comic t-shirts because I grew up on comic books. And that was the other reading that I did. Just, thousands of comic books. And I made it simple. I said, you're drinking one thing because you don't know and you're not educated enough. But when I start talking to you about this and I'm giving you what you like, I can always match you up to a wine that you like. Some guys look, man, I'm tired of this. I'm not taking a wine. I drink Hennessy all the time. I'm like, you know what? Try Cabernet Sauvignon, 2003. It's going to give you that same burn, bro. It's going to give you that same one. And they were like, you know what? That was pretty damn good. I know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
So then from that, and then movies, motivating people to say, just because it's a black movie doesn't make it a good movie. But there's black movies that you refuse to look at because you don't want to hear certain things that's not in your neighborhood. You think the right thing is what you see in your neighborhood. No, you should try to transcend your thought and quality of life higher than where you at. You should always try to move forward from that. And even in business, we want to see a lot of minority faces. If you see minority faces, then the children coming up behind us will say, I can do that as well. If you can't do that, or even like one of my best friends, he said, my son loves you. And I was like, yeah, he's a good kid. He said, but you're black and he's a white kid. And I was like, so let's stop doing that and let's look at the qualities that he's seeing and let's work with that. Because if we keep talking about this color thing, then that's going to always be something you got to be given excuses for or something else. If he likes what I'm doing and I treat him in a respectful way, he likes how I treat him, not because of the color of my skin. Mm-hmm. And, those are the things that I enjoy having the conversations about because it makes us a better community. It makes us a better city. It makes us a better state. It makes us a better world because it's these little things that makes life more manageable. And that's the one thing that I really like to do. And luckily I have this deep romantic voice that I can get out and people have a tendency to say, oh, I love hearing that. So I'll do that all day long.
So touching on what you're doing and providing information via your podcast, can you talk about Dreadlock Connoisseur and, you have two websites, www.dreadlockconnoisseur.com and www.urbanwinelife.com.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of split them. Urbanwinelife.com is on Dreadlock Connoisseur, but I didn't want to get that lost in the mix because the one thing I'm trying to do with being the wine connoisseur that I wanted to be is I wanted that to sit on its own. When I'm talking to sponsors or trying to get sponsors, I really want them to see that my purpose is to get people involved into loving wine like I love it. I just love the hell out of it. Whereby the Dreadlock Connoisseur is really just the life that I'm living. I love to travel. I still love to travel. Mm-hmm. People live vicariously through me because they can't travel. And I tell them, never say can't. Mm-hmm. It's just something you won't do. So the movies and all of that. So all of those things in the Dreadlock Connoisseur is, I'm a connoisseur of different things. I like poetry. I write stories. I do all of these different things. But this is who I am, and this is what I love to do. I won't give this up. Like everything that I've done as an entrepreneur, these are the things that I will never give up. These are the steady things. Yeah. And if I can make a little money to make me happy, I'll do it just to build on it for others. Because this is the one thing that I just love doing, to communicate and to lead people in the direction so they can be successful.
Yeah.
But one thing I think we kind of missed out on, and pardon me if I'm jumping backwards, but I don't want people to think that when I transitioned out, I just jumped right in, did a business, and I was fine. When I jumped out, it was one of the hardest things I thought I was prepared for. I really thought, and like I said earlier, I'm a know-it-all. I said, look, I can read it, I can absorb it, and I'll be fine. I didn't know how to pay bills properly. I didn't know the timing of things. I didn't realize the responsibility of owning a house, and no one would show up and just fix it for you. You had to do your research to find people. I got ripped off constantly because of not knowing what to do. And it crushed me as a man of your house, and you have to take care of your 3 kids and your wife. And you made them understand that you knew it all. And when you weren't able to do that, it was a crushing effect of, here you are and you made this choice.
Yeah. So
it was all on me.
Yeah.
Very devastating. And for years. And with the PTSD, I have that, I'm managing it a lot better because I took myself out of the environment of being stressful, because most of my career I was leading so many people that I was worried about their life, and I had to back off from that.
Yeah.
And that stressed me. It stressed my family. And they was like, look, you forgetting about your children. You said you got out for them. I said, yeah, but, lady at my house, she's going to be homeless tomorrow. I'm going to have to lend her money. And she's like, are you crazy? What about your family? And I was doing these things because the mentality coming out of the military is take care of your troops. You are responsible for their well-being. And, I was into some serious depression for a long time and not realizing it. And it was a crushing effect when you think you know what you're supposed to do and how you think life is supposed to turn in the way you see it.
Yeah. So
I really didn't want to paint that over because, I enjoyed a lot of things. I had a lot of entrepreneur building businesses and everything. But you know what? My mind had to be clear, and, it was ebbs and flows. 1 minute I'm doing really well, and then I'm dropping all the way back down.
Yeah.
Back up again, and then I'm dropping back down. So that's the reality of life.
Yeah.
That's the military coming out, but that's anybody's life if you make a change.
Yeah.
When you make a change in your life, you have to be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny that you took it there, because I was just about to walk you in there, kind of touching on some of that. One, you said you're dealing with your PTSD by removing yourself from stressful situations that would trigger it. And so, in order to remove yourself, or in order to fix a problem, you have to acknowledge that there is a problem, and you have to acknowledge that it's happening at certain points, right? Like if you're trying to quit smoking and you go to a bar and your friends are smoking, then it'll probably help you to stop smoking if you just don't go to that bar for the time period that you're quitting, right? If that's a trigger. If there's triggers that we acknowledge, once you acknowledge the trigger, once you acknowledge the problem, you can walk away from it. At what point, right? At what point did you have that conversation with yourself? Because up until one point, it's all day to day, and this is all just normal life. And then at some point, you're like, hold up, I'm not the same person that I want to be or that I used to be, and it's bothering me.
So it was, and I'll be honest, it was kind of like a 2-phase. The first phase was when I left a company called Mineral Logistics. We were doing a big, it's called NCR, National Cash Registers, to do the ATMs and cash registers and all. But I left there because I was involved with a lot of racism, and that they would never promote the black people, or they were firing them, or they were doing things, and I was the only outspoken person. Either I was going to be fired or somebody was going to jump on me, but I didn't care either way. But I made a decision that, you know what, I have to move from this. I really got to move from this. So I can't continue to have this anger because people aren't as smart as I want them to be. And I realized that I kept doing that, and I kept moving into different jobs, expecting them to help me to be better. And then I realized I have to be better on my own. So that was the first phase. And then once I'd done that and I jumped into a job, which my wife was really, really afraid of, and they said, look, this building here, we're not sure if we want to shut it down or not. Within 6 to 8 months, we'll know if we can shut it down. But would you like to take the job? And I was like, sure. And they was like, what are we telling you? We may shut this down if you don't do well enough. I was like, don't worry, it won't shut down. And it didn't shut down. But I was that confident. And they looked at me like, I hope this dude know what he's talking about. But I was that confident.
Yeah.
And I dug totally in it, grinded out, and I made it successful. But the reason why I did that was self-worth. And once again, it kicked in to say, you have to take care of these people.
Yeah.
Because the CEO of the company came in and said, these people are making $7 an hour, but you saved this place. We're going to give you a raise. And I said, nope. He's like, you mean you don't want a raise? I said, no, I do want a raise. But before you give me a raise, you need to take care of every single person in here. Everyone needs to have a percentage raise to let them know their hard work for us needs to be recognized. That guy was shocked, left. 2 weeks later, everybody got a raise.
Nice.
3 months later, he got me my raise. I didn't expect it, and I didn't really care because I knew that these people were being shortchanged and no one cared other than do the work and keep going. And it just kept flashbacks of just do what I tell you to do no matter what. And, those were the things that were hurting me mentally and throwing me into depression when I was in the military. Just do what I say. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. Just do what I say. And that got me. And so I did that for about 10 years. And I got burnt out because they gave me more and they gave me more. And I got another facility. I had to do 2 facilities. And then they was like, well, we're going to fire your people because we wanted to consolidate it. So I created another business within the business in order for them to keep those people. But I was working 6 to 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours, drinking and doing all types of stuff just to be able to maintain at that high level, And I burnt out and I crashed.
And then you say
crashed.
You took a sabbatical.
Yep.
How long was the sabbatical that you took? And then what did you learn during that process, that time off?
Fantastic question. Because during that time, I had to realize that, part of my family I was losing because I wanted them to see me doing the right thing for everyone. And then I wanted my family to love me like I dedicated to them. But they didn't see that. But I never respect the fact that they have to love you the way they love me, not the way I expected that.
Yeah.
Then I had to realize that if you're not happy, how can you help anybody else? So when I stopped, and part of that, time off was 5 days a week. I ran probably 5, maybe 10 miles a day because being outside and just fresh mind and recirculating and purging myself and doing that freed me to say, this is who you are. Free your mind. Find out what you really want. I went back to the VA. I got counseling done, and they was like, you're still hung up with the Somalia thing. And you need to let that go because you're still carrying that. I had to write, I love writing. I had to write multiple stories of what occurred. And I'll say that in a minute, what occurred. Multiple stories of how I could have done something different, how things would have occurred like I thought it would occur. And I had to write them a couple of times to come to an understanding that it wasn't in my control to do anything anyway. But when I was in Somalia, we was on a convoy, and we were going to a city, and, we was laughing and joking, and all of a sudden on the radio, someone said they barricade the area, the road, shots fired, and smoke was everywhere, and they said fire. But prior to that, all I saw was huts of women and children. That's all I saw. So as we went to the next area, and it was smoky, we had the fire on it. So I never knew if I killed anybody or didn't kill anyone. Mm-hmm. But I was doing what I was told.
Yeah.
And I never got over it.
Yeah.
I never got over it. So from that point on, it was take care of your people and never put them in a position that they can hurt anyone else.
Yeah.
Or you be the cause of them hurting someone else.
Yeah.
And it hung on me for years. But during that time, I was able to say, Michael, it's not that hard. Sometimes people make bad decisions, but you got to move on and continue to do the right thing. And I'm in the best position I'm in to really feel that way on a daily basis. I'm okay with it.
And when you have those moments and notice them, right? Because we talked about acknowledging, right? When you start to notice those periods of anxiety or those periods of darkness or frustration coming up, what are some practices that you do to help move you through the day? And then I don't want to say shake it off, but deal with it, to approach it, to face it, and then to move forward.
So, let's talk about during the day, because I'm in a situation that I work for Marshalls, and I got like 4 different areas. So the one thing that people are like, you are so damn intense, Mike. I was like, usually when I'm stressed, I get very intense. So visions come out to me. How do we be better? So I started creating. So I put that focus of anxiety and stress and create. So I've learned to say, create from that chaos. They're telling you to do something. They force you to do something that you don't need to. Got that. Put that aside. Now create, Mike. Create so things will be better. Create totally looking at it in a different way. Create, put another option. That 4-sided coin to say, here are 4 different things that we should be doing besides what they're telling you to do. But create that as a side note, so if it comes up, you always have options to say, let's discuss this as well. Because you cannot influence the choice that they make you do, but you can always say, look, here's something that I can focus on beyond that. And then outside of that, usually I go running, and it clears my mind. And, the military helped me with that, because we used to just run for miles, that fresh air, because I can't do, what's that, in the house, lots of words, I'm so sorry. Treadmill? I can't do treadmill. No, I can't do it. So I run down streets and parks and wherever I can.
You're like, I can get off this whenever I want? Okay.
Not doing that. I got to go to a certain point, and somehow I got to get back.
Yeah.
So I get intense with that, and it helps because it just pushes that totally away and gets me to refocus on something more positive.
Yeah. And
usually it's something that can help us all. And it's not even a selfish approach. It's, hey, let's just recreate life.
Well, and I don't mean to stay on this, but refocusing on something more positive, what comes to mind? What is the first thing that comes to mind when you thought about that?
To refocus on positive.
Yeah. So refocusing on positive. You're having a bad day right now. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? What's the positive? What's the positive that you refocus to?
So I take about 3 to 4 steps forward. So I'm looking at this is happening now, but tomorrow it's going to be this, and then next week I got to prepare for that. And if next week that doesn't happen, then I'm probably going to need to do this. So I move forward from that.
Okay.
And start preparing ahead of that, except for lingering on the now. I'm going to have to deal with the now anyway. But it clears me up to say what's next. Because if I deal with the next, it's going to make what's happening now kind of small in comparison. Because that's just going to happen. But now what's next? And because they may have reacted to me to make me do something because of something emotional, they'll get over that too. And if I respond emotional, then, we're in the same boat. And now we have to fight out of that. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of times I say, nope, I totally agree with you. No, I said, there's no need to continue on. You acknowledge this. I agree with you. And this is what I'm going to do. Then once I leave, I'm like, Mike, where are you going forward from that? Then I move forward from that. Yeah. And it helps because even when it's time to get that done, I'm done. I'm okay. I don't like it, but I'm more clear-minded because even if it's wrong, I know it's going to be the end result of it. So I'm preparing for that.
Okay. So what would you tell vets that are struggling to find themselves today?
So the one thing that I've always tried to tell people is, what do you like? Even if it's not what you're working on right now, what do you like? Well, I don't know what I like. So when you sit there, do you like drinking? So if you like drinking, that's a problem. You probably check on that. But what are things that you enjoy to say, that gives me a little joy? Well, I like being with my kids. Well, maybe you need to cut down on the amount of work that you're doing so you can be with your family. No, I got to work. Why? Because I got to. No, but if these are the things that you want, find out what you like. Find out what you enjoy. Or find out what you're good at. See, this is the other thing. Sometimes what you're good at isn't necessarily what you like. Because I told my wife, she liked just doing coding, but she's very good at speaking. She's very good at bringing people together and giving them positive things. Uh-huh. So when she started seeing that people really responded to the way she spoke to them, she embraced it. That's what you're good at. So embrace that. I know you love the code, but take that code, put it in your speech, and then start talking. I said, you're not getting away from it. You're just doing what you're good at and just go from there. So find that out. Find out what you're good at and find out what you like. And you can go either way. I mean, you want to seesaw. That would be higher. The other one would be lower. Yeah. Sooner or later, someone's going to push up. You're going to be up, and that's going to be down. But go between those two.
So if you had to go through it all over again, would you do it the same or would you change something up?
Probably wouldn't do it the same. I'll probably change some things up. And I leave you with this one. I always tell people this because this was kind of crazy. So back in the mid-'80s, we had Pershing missiles. So we always in Germany. We had Pershing missiles, and we would go to the border and set them up for Russia or East Germany. And there was a site that we go to that had the nuclear warhead. But the body of the missile, we had them on portable tractor trailers. So we would have to go to an undisclosed site and stay there and be ready for that. But we had to always move the vehicles with the missile body there. And, I was obsessed with my wife at that time. So there was a truck going back to the base, and a friend of mine, we grabbed hold of that at the bottom of the missile and traveled 47 to, I think about 40, it was 40-some miles from that undisclosed area all the way to the base, just because I wanted to see my wife. And I told everybody, in hindsight, I would have never done that. It could have shipped and crushed us, and we would have been dead. Mm-hmm. And no one would have ever known each other, pulled that off, and we would have been dead. Yeah. But I told my wife, because I love you, I couldn't do without you. But I wouldn't do that again. And I just wouldn't. there's a couple of things that, yes,
yeah,
definitely I would change. Definitely. Very, very experienced.
Well, it's all about the experiences, right? I mean, they're all learning moments, little tiny learning moments. What would be the best transitioning advice for service members? What would be the best transitioning advice for service members right now that you have?
So, if you're single, know where you're going, know what you want, and kind of start preparing in advance. If you're married, make sure you having a good conversation, because sometimes in a relationship, they're agreeing with you. They really don't want you to do certain things. My wife knew I needed to get out because she saw emotionally how I wasn't with the children, and how the military was really distorting my mind and how depressed I was. So she knew I needed to get out. So she was in agreement with what was going on. Prepare. And I can't say that more. I can't say that enough. Prepare, prepare, prepare. No one will give you anything when you're out. Go with that first. We have a lot of good services that's out right now, but prepare that no one will help you. So prepare for that.
Yeah. Because
it makes life easier. But we have plenty of great services out, and I know you reached out and you give great advice, Rob. But if you don't look at it in that way, you're going to go down this black hole that's going to be hard to get out, and it's going to take you a lot longer than it should.
Prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm just sitting here so quiet because I don't know if you ever heard the saying, when people aren't talking at the table, it's good. Because you have a dinner party and everybody's talking, but if people aren't talking at the table, the food's good. So, I'm sitting here just quiet, and I'm usually not saying anything from other guests, but I'm usually just fully animated in voice, but I'm sitting here just listening to wisdom. So, I appreciate all of this.
I appreciate that.
Is there any contact information that you would like to share, in case somebody wants to reach back out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me at mac.it.enterprise@gmail.com. I'm always on Twitter. I'm a Twitter freak, so constantly, because there's just so much on it. And that's the way a lot of people are communicating lately. But
what's your Twitter?
If you want to contact me,
what's your Twitter handle?
Via Twitter. It's Dreadlock Wines. That's one of them. And Mac IT Enterprise. That's the other. Those two I'm always on. I always respond if you want any references or anything. But if you want some, especially veteran advice, because, part of my life that I just don't talk about enough, I think, because you really motivated me to, that there's just a portion of my life that I'm kind of putting aside. Not that I'm forgetting it, but I'm just putting it aside. But listening to your shows and everything that you're doing, it's a bigger need for that, because there's so many veterans that's getting out that we always have the parades, and you got people on the TV saying it's great, but then when the veteran is out, they're on their own. Mm-hmm. And they were like, why is this happening to me? Mm-hmm. And if they don't know that it's happening to others, people who are successful, people who aren't successful, people who are saying, look, I just want an easy life, and people who say, I want to achieve and go for the stars, they need to know that there's people out there that are doing it, mm-hmm. and has went through the same thing they're doing, and who wants you not to go through that.
Yeah.
Because I would want people not to go through what I went through. You can touch some of it and recover, but I would never want someone to go through the feelings that I had to go through and really have to learn to recover. If I had someone counseling me during that time, I would have a shorter recovery period.
Yeah.
But that's how things are.
Yeah. Mr. Michael Carr, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time out today. And I know things were a little busy right before, so it's an honor that you took the moment out of your life to give to the vets, to give back, to give your story, and to share, right? Because we don't always share, and so it's almost a therapeutic moment, but it's also a learning experience for those that are able to tap in and listen to us talk today. So I sincerely appreciate you joining me here on You're the Vet today.
It was my pleasure, and Robert, honestly, continue to do what you're doing. You know, I wish I would have thought about this, because it is therapeutic. You know, we have veterans who wait and say, you know, I'll get better. I'll just get better.
Yeah.
But, you know, listening to your podcast, listening to the people who you talk to, make me feel I have to do this. That's why I told you, I had my issue about, you know, prior to this, getting on the call. But you know what? I look forward to saying I have to share this, because there's too many of our veterans that's not being respected, and there's too many of our veterans that are going a way that they shouldn't. And if we can catch them before it happens, look, we out there for that. And, you know, I really appreciate what you're doing. You're doing some great things. And got your book. I haven't finished reading it, but I got your book. And I go from there too.
I appreciate that too. Believe me, I can't even say how grateful I am. So, especially since it's a new project, and it's really hard to get people to jump in on something new when some people are just kind of out there looking for publicity rather than trying to help. And so that's the people who are taking the chance so early. It really means a lot to me. And so I thank you for that. So,
and I'm open whenever you need me. You got my contact information and all. Whenever you need me, I'm there to help you out.
Great. So this has been another episode of You're the Vet. I'm here with Mr. Michael Carr, talking about life from the Bronx to the I'm sorry about the Atlanta Falcons, by the way. But
I don't want to talk about it. I'm a Giants fan, dude.
Oh, okay. Then no harm foul right there. So, but
no harm foul.
I appreciate it, and those who stay tuned and listen to this whole podcast, I appreciate you sticking around, and I hope that something that was said today helps you better your life, or is able to better somebody else's life. So pass this on if it's a message that somebody else that you know may need, and then listen to it again if it's something that you need to get into. Before I go, I have a little note here, since you know the wines and the movies. What is the one wine and the one movie we should see before we leave?
Before you leave, you should see Fences.
Okay.
And, you know, since it's getting colder, you should have a nice warm Malbec from Argentina. Malbec, M-A-L-B-E-C.
I was just introduced to that by my physical therapist. She said,
really?
Yeah, she said, you should really try the Malbec with some mulling spices. So she bought me some mulling spices for Christmas, and that was my first time hearing about a Malbec. So, and that was just like a month ago. So I will be buying a bottle.
It's amazing.
All right, Michael, I appreciate it.
And Fences.
Take care. I thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Bye.